All right, thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 28. This episode, we'll be taking a look at the World Series. I know I didn't get to talk a lot baseball this year. You know, with pandemic and everything and all the sports coming in at once, it kind of turned into just football and basketball mainly. But now that I have a chance, I do want to look at the World Series. It's going to be a big matchup between Tampa Bay Rays, LA Dodgers. So we'll kind of go through some, key stats for each team, highlight a couple of players, compare, lineups to pitching staffs. By the end of the episode, I will give you a prediction. And as you remember, I did nail the NBA Finals. I got that right, Lakers in 6. So I'll try to do the same here with the World Series. But before I do get into that, just something that I guess just to let you know. So now with the sports kind of breaking up again, and because when I first started this, there was so many sports going at once, so it was kind of crazy. So now I can kind of do some things that I want to do with the podcast here. So one thing I do want to do is, so I'm gonna probably start each episode, and I'll probably start with next week. But I'm gonna start each episode kind of with a rant, or kind of like the bad and ugly of the week before. Just to give you an example, like, I would do a Monday's episode and probably, rant on something that I saw in the NFL schedule over the weekend or college football. And then as each episode goes, I'll start the episode off with some, opinionated part where I may go in on a certain team, maybe a whole city, a coach, or whatever, just to let you know kind of more of where I come from in terms of how I view sports. So that's something to look forward to. Like I said, I'll either start that later this week or probably like next Monday, so I can use the football weekend as my first go at it. So just to let you know with that. But yeah, so let's take a look at this World Series. As I said, I think I mentioned before, it was a shortened season for baseball. They had to shut down everything during spring training. By the time they came back, they couldn't really fit a full season. They settled on 60 games. They got their 60 games in. And now it's come down to this, the World Series, where they're going to crown a champion. It's the Tampa Bay Rays, LA Dodgers. It's going to look like a regular baseball game, except there still is no travel. So they're still technically using their bubble, with the games being played at the Rangers home stadium down in Texas. It's Arlington, I believe. So this is actually the fourth time since 95 that actually both teams with the best record made it. So the best team in the AL were the Rays over the regular season, and the best winning percentage in the NL was the Dodgers. So it's 1 seed versus 1 seed. That's always a big thing. Interesting thing though is with the Rays, so it's their first time back in the World Series since 2008, and they come out of the AL East where they have to deal with big money spenders in the Yankees and my Red Sox. They managed to win the division, managed to have a better record than both teams. Red Sox were terrible this year, but the Yankees are the Yankees. They're always number 1, 2. I believe there's a few times they've been number 3 in payroll. They were number 1 payroll this year, but as you can see, they didn't make the World Series yet again. So, all right, Yankees, what you got going on here? But so the Rays are number 28 in payroll. So it just shows for small market teams, if you have a philosophy, You stick to it. You get a good manager. Their manager is Kevin Cash. You get the players to fit systems. You get creative with your roster in terms of your lineup and your pitching staff. You can make it to the World Series. I mean, the Rays aren't the only small market team to make it. Like I said, they made it in 2008. The Royals have made the World Series. The Rockies in Colorado. So it's not always, Dodgers, Yankees, Astros, Red Sox. There are some years where the smaller teams do get through. Now, the Rays almost weren't here because they had a 3-0 lead against the Astros in the American League Championship Series. Astros actually won 3 straight to force a Game 7, but the Rays pulled it out in Game 7, which is tough to do. Once you win 3, you lose 3. You've lost all the momentum in the series. Then to turn it back around and win a Game 7, you have to give the Rays credit. I believe, most of America wanted to see the Astros go against the Dodgers because of last year when the Astros beat the Dodgers in the World Series, and then that whole cheating scandal came out with the Astros, their elaborate scheme of banging trash cans. If you haven't heard that, you can go back and look at the story. It's interesting because, just to give you general knowledge with this. So they would have a guy, I guess, kind of like down the dugout steps, and they would get like relayed to them whether the pitch was going to be a fastball or off-speed pitch. I believe it was a fastball. They banged the trash can like once, but if it was off-speed, they banged it twice, something like that. The league looked into it. They gave them a penalty for it. They found out that, that's what the scheme was. They also looked into the Red Sox. They didn't find anything on the Red Sox, but, Cora was the manager there, and he got fired for all that to say. So a lot of people want to see the Astros versus the Dodgers. Since the Astros won last year, they wanted to see, Astros, Dodgers for a second year. That way they could kind of settle it on the field as to whether the cheating scandal was the real reason for the Astros winning. But the Rays had other plans, ended up beating them Game 7, so we don't have to worry about that. Looking on the other side, we have the Dodgers. This is the Dodgers' third time in the World Series in the last 4 years. Like I said, they lost to the Astros. They lost to the Red Sox. And the third one, I believe they lost to was it the Red Sox again? Yeah, they lost to the Red Sox twice, Astros once. So the Dodgers are, desperate for a title now. Their path to the World Series, they were down 3-1 to the Braves, ended up winning 3 straight, got to the World Series, and now they're looking to finally take home a World Series title. I believe the Dodgers haven't won one since 1988. That's, back in the day. And for a Dodgers team that tends to spend money on their roster, that's kind of a long gap between World Series titles. So, they're hoping to right some wrongs this year, finally get the title that they've been looking for, especially being there 3 times in 4 years. They're hoping that this is the year for them. They went out and got Mookie Betts from the Red Sox, and they're hoping that he's the guy who can push them over the hump and get that title. In terms of payroll, Dodgers have the second highest payroll, so based on the talent that they're paying for, they were expected to be here. And interesting thing with them is they've won 8 straight division titles, no World Series title in that 8-year stretch. So they may want to capitalize on that as well, because within their division, The Padres are improving. The Giants, you never know. They'll pop up every once in a while. Rockies are still middle of the road, but the Padres are definitely on the come up as a young team in that division that could win a division title as early as next year. Same with the Rays. The Rays won the division title this year, but I mean, you figure the Yankees will be back there next year. The Red Sox aren't that far away. You know, they're looking for a new manager, although their new manager may end up being their old manager, Alex Cora. But there's talent on the Red Sox as well, so both these teams looking to take advantage in this one. And this was an odd year, like every other sport. They had extra playoff teams. So, you know, the Rays had to actually go through Yankees, Astros to get here. And Yankees and Astros, I mean, those are two big market teams. Yankees number 1 in payroll. Astros are number 3 in payroll. Dodgers, like I said, going through the Braves and the Brewers to get here. So it's a matchup of David versus Goliath. Small market, big market. But the Rays are a little different than they have been past years. You know, the Rays are always, you know, synonymous with being small ball, you know, singles hitters, doubles hitters on the team, steal bases, sacrifice bunt, that kind of stuff. This Rays lineup in the playoffs, at least, they've actually hit more home runs than the Dodgers. If you're looking up and down the lineup, you would think the Dodgers have more home run hitters, but the Rays have actually been flexing more muscle in the playoffs. So with that, the pitching staffs are going to be essential. You know, the Dodgers have Clayton Kershaw leading their pitching staff, but Kershaw has not been that great in the playoffs. He's 11-2 all time. In terms of World Series, he's pitched in 2 different World Series. He's 1-2 with a 5.4 ERA. For a guy who's seen as the best pitcher in baseball, I mean, that's just not going to cut it. So hopefully for the Dodgers, they're hoping that Kershaw can right his wrongs, find his rhythm, and put together a couple of good performances. You know, 7-game series, your pitcher in game 1 will usually work game 1, game 4, and then possibly a game 7 if there is one. Like I said, they also have Mookie Betts, who, you know, they traded with the Red Sox after the Red Sox tried to re-sign him. They offered him like 10 years, $300 million. He didn't want it. He wanted free agency. They decided to trade him instead. And he's actually going to be a free agent at the end of the year, but all signs point to the Dodgers trying to re-sign him. I believe Betts has said he'd like to re-sign with the Dodgers, but you never know. And for the Rays, their most important pitcher is probably Charlie Morton, who, you know, he's the guy that they brought in from the Astros. He's got kind of a reputation of a big game pitcher, a playoff performer. He'll probably pitch game, I'm going to say 3 in this series, but he's a guy that they look to go deep into the game and give the Rays a chance to win. But as much as these two teams have, you know, decent starting pitching, their stronger pitchers are actually in their bullpen. So both teams, you know, tend to let their starters, if they have it going, go about 5-6 innings, and then they have no problem going into their bullpen. You know, they both have flame-throwing pitchers on the back end as their closers. You know, the Dodgers have Kenley Jensen, and the Rays have a young pitcher who, you know, he throws like upper 90s, close to 100. Was it? Yeah, Nick Anderson's his name. So don't be surprised. Like I said, starters 5-6 innings, then it becomes a bullpen game. I believe the Rays may even do something they've been known for, is having an opener where they'll start the game with a reliever, and then they may bring in a quote-unquote starting pitcher to go after, and then go back into the bullpen. You know, the Rays started that trend. Some other teams have picked up on it, but the Rays are known for it. So, just looking at the lineups for both teams, the most, I'd say, dangerous Tampa Bay hitter is Rosarena. Hope I'm saying that right. He's a guy they got from the Cardinals organization, and he's kind of become a little bit of a star in these playoffs. He's got 7 home runs over the course of the playoffs. He usually comes up with the bigger hits for the Rays, so he's a guy that the Dodgers are going to want to, keep an eye on. Hopefully they could get him up there where it's just him, no men on base. Because the last thing you want is for him to hit like a 3-run homer or something. But more importantly, you want to just keep him off the base path completely. For the Dodgers, they have a couple of hitters you can look at. They have, Cody Bellinger, who's probably their bigger named hitter. But Bellinger, like Kershaw, has struggled in the playoffs in his career. This playoffs, he's doing a little better, but it's still not great. He's hitting like 225 or something, It's not great at all. So, you can also go Mookie Betts. Betts has probably made more of a name with his glove because, in games 5, 6, and 7 in the Braves series, he made web gem-like catches in the outfield that saved runs and helped them, make that comeback. So I wouldn't go with him. I think I would go with Corey Seager as the Dodgers hitter that the Rays have to watch. He, like Arozarena, has come up with timely hits in the postseason. I believe he has 6 home runs himself. So those are the 2 hitters that these pitching staffs have to pay extra attention to. And then pitchers, I said with the Rays, Morton is the guy that they're going to look to. He's not starting the series off, I know, but I believe he's undefeated in these playoffs. So he could be a guy that I would not be surprised to see if he does start game 3. That maybe he starts a game on short rest after that. Wouldn't shock me because I believe he's done it with he did with the Astros in one of their playoff runs. And then for the Dodgers, it should be Kershaw, but like I said, Kershaw has struggled in the playoffs. They have a pitcher, Urias, who he's another guy I believe is undefeated as well. And he's an important pitcher for them because he's the guy that they can use as a spot starter, or he can give you some innings out of the bullpen. So however Dave Roberts chooses to use him, he's an added weapon for them. So looking at the lineups, their offensive numbers, the biggest number that most, experts and analytic people look at is team OPS, which is just on base percentage plus slugging. And slugging percentage takes into account like extra base hits and all that. But yeah. So the Rays come into this World Series as, number 10 team in the playoffs. They had a 702 OPS. That's decent. But the Dodgers are the number 2 team with an 812 OPS. So they have a lot of guys in their lineup that can, you get to watch for extra base hits or have that, home run power. Whether it's Betts, Bellinger, Seager, Hernandez, up and down the lineup. The Rays, mainly their power guys are, 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters. And then pitching staffs, they actually have the identical ERA, 3.36. which is fourth best in the playoffs. So, pitching stats are pretty good. Offenses are decent. Like I said, the Rays have hit more home runs, so I mean that's something the Dodgers are going to have to watch for. They have a lot of guys who, swing for the fences. The Rays used to be a team that, like I said, valued on base percentage, walks, little bloop hits here and there, and play the speed game. But they've kind of changed their makeup recently. I'm thinking it's probably because of, the Yankees and the Red Sox aren't small ball type teams. They play, power game. And I think the Rays have they haven't completely changed their philosophy that way, but they've kind of moved more towards that. So, like I said, beginning tomorrow night, it's an interesting matchup. This is an interesting one. Now, I want to say my head is telling me to go with the Dodgers because the Dodgers have a deeper team. They have the bigger names on their team. Then my heart kind of saying root for the little guy, the Rays. But the Rays are in the Red Sox division. I don't want to pick the Dodgers, have LA win another title because they already got the one with the Lakers. They got the Dodger one. That's going to be a whole thing. You know what? I think the Dodgers do it. I'll say the Dodgers in 6. Yeah. I'll say Mookie Betts, World Series MVP. I'll put that down as well. So yeah, Dodgers in 6. Of course, hold me to that. I'll hold myself to that. Once the series is over, we'll see how right I was. So once again, I said Dodgers in 6. Mookie Betts, World Series MVP. Yeah. So with that, that's my look at the World Series. If you agree with what I said, even if you didn't agree, drop a comment. Feel free to, comment on anything. Comment who you think will win between the Rays and the Dodgers. You can comment topics you want me to throw on the program here. But yeah, like, subscribe, follow, all that. But then looking at episodes going forward, as I said, I kind of want to add that to the beginning of episodes where, I kind of take a couple minutes, vent a little bit about stuff I've seen that clearly teams or whatever aren't seeing. Which, just to give you an example, I could rant on Adam Gase of the Jets. I'm not going to do that now, but if he's around come like next Monday or Tuesday or whatever, that might be the first one. There's a tease for you. But yeah, there's enough out there that when I'm watching sports, I'm always like, what are we doing here? Or how could you make that decision? Stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff I want to bring to you guys. So look forward to that. As I said in my last episode, I am going to start working college football into my weekly rotation. I'm a big college football fan as well. And yes, common theme, if you've been paying attention, mainly root for Boston teams. So I do watch BC football. But Atlanta is like my adopted home now since I've been here for a while. So I do watch UGA, Georgia Tech. Mainly watch SEC football, ACC football. I can't say that guy. I watch all of them. Big 10, Big 12, I don't care. I just like good matchups. So figure might as well start talking about that, even though with college football being so disjointed in terms of start times for the conferences, I can't really wait till Pac-12 starts because by then the ACC could be done with their schedule or something. So I'll start looking at that, start giving I guess, my weekly look on the top 4 teams for the playoff. But yeah, we'll pay attention to World Series as the games go on. If anything major happens, like if it turns into a sweep or something, talk about that. Let's see what else. So we got that and that. Not going to completely forget about basketball, of course. I said this last week or whatever. I still have basketball topics I can talk about. I've definitely said I'm going to do, Jordan versus LeBron debate. I'll also do probably forgotten greats. By that I mean, guys like Bill Russell, Larry Bird, stuff like that. Talk about them. And also what I want to look at let me see, I think the draft is it middle of November or end of November. So we'll be starting looking at some prospects for the draft. And also want to do kind of a look at some of the young players playing today and maybe find a comparison for somebody who, they played some years ago, or maybe even with the prospects, compare them to somebody in the league today, all that kind of stuff. So there's still basketball content coming from my basketball fans. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to forget you. And then we saw the NFL season going. So, of course, that's going to be a weekly thing. Which tomorrow's episode, well, I'll record tomorrow. You'll get it Wednesday morning. But I will have to review my picks and kind of look back on what I thought were going to be the big stories from over the weekend. And we'll see how it all played out. But yeah, so with that, thank you for tuning in. As I said before, if you're new, like, subscribe, follow. Podcast is on most major platforms except a couple, but I'm working on that. When they do, it's like Audible, only one that's not on right now. I'm working towards that. But, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, it's out there. So, wherever you're listening, subscribe, follow. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. And I will definitely catch you the next episode. All right.